there's a conference going on in Cape Town at the moment. It's called Capturing the Gains, and one of the attendees and one of the speakers is with me in the Cape Town Power Lunch studio now. It's Hubert Escaith, who's the Chief Statistician at the World Trade Organization. Hubert, thank you very much for popping in. What is Capturing the Gains? What is it all about?
Well, I mean, it's basically about global value chains to start with, so which is a new way of organizing trade and production network in the world, where each country specialized in some part of the value chain. So the whole issue is first to enter into these global value chains, and once you're in, to move in the value chain in order to have a better salary, better value, to being in a better competitive position. It's basically the idea of this conference, to look into this issue.
How does South Africa fit in a global value chain? I mean, in terms of its participation at the moment and from where it's come?
Well, South Africa is a particular case in the sense that it's part of Africa, and it shares some of the bigger issue of Africa in terms of value chain. Because value chain for the time being are closely linked with three poles. I mean, we have the North American pole with Mexico, Canada, and the US, obviously, the European pole, and the Eastern Asian pole. And obviously, Africa is a bit peripheric to this thing. On the other hand, South Africa by itself is a pole in terms of some value chains in apparel, for example, or agriculture, etc. So it's a very specific situation of a country which shares some of the issues of the continent, but on top of that has some specific argument or advantages. And well, the objective of the conference is to look at this positive aspect and try to develop something out of it.
It's an extraordinary situation, actually, the way that the world is developed. And you look at Apple, for example, and you think of Apple as an American company, the largest company in the world, and yet most of its manufacturing is done in China, for example. And also I was startled to notice the other day when we had the Mexican ambassador in the Johannesburg studio that Mexico is the largest exporter, for example, I think, of fridge freezers and flat screen TVs. I presume they're not Mexican companies. I presume they're companies elsewhere using Mexican labor and facilities.
Absolutely. For me, perhaps the clearest example is a small country called Costa Rica. Costa Rica is quite a small country, I mean, maybe 6 or 8 million inhabitants. And today Costa Rica is the second exporter of electronic products in Latin America. I mean, after Mexico, but before Brazil. And it's true that it's due to the fact that Costa Rica is not building all the electronic thing. They are just doing one part of the global value chain, but they are doing it well. So they were able to attract investment for companies like Intel, Motorola. And starting from that, they diversified into medical equipment, into lots of things. So it's really a new possibility offered to some countries to develop something new. I mean,
but how do they do that? I mean, if the Costa Rica, that's a very an astonishing example, actually. 6 to 8 million people, second only to Mexico, but above Brazil. How does South Africa adopt a sort of Costa Rican approach and do something? Is it price? Is it quality? Is it a combination of the two?
In the case of Costa Rica, and it's the reason why it might be more difficult for South Africa, they built on their proximity to a big market, which is the US. And as I mentioned before, I mean, being a bit in the periphery puts some difficulties on that. But on top of that, it's the result of more than 20 years of investment in education. Well, something that you in South Africa you don't have, but English is now taught in primary school in Costa Rica. So almost all Costa Rican people are bilingual, which helps a lot when you want to enter into a global value chain, being multilingual and open to multicultural differences, because you have to deal with American, you have to deal with Chinese. I mean, so opening the education was very important in Costa Rica, and investing a lot on what we call in technical jargon trade facilitation. So making work and life easy for business. But it would be wrong to think that it's only a pro-business agenda. In fact, it's really a deal where the business wins, but you create job and job of increasing quality. And I would like to highlight the thing increasing quality. You start with your own advantages, which can be cheap labor on one hand, which was perhaps the case of Costa Rica at the beginning. It can be trained labor force, as in South Africa. But in starting from that, you build something. You build your own advantage and you move up. I mean,
well, I hope we can find some advantage. We'll have to leave it there, unfortunately.